Creation myths are interesting things. From the surface of seemingly nothing, often depicted as a great body of water or ocean, something happens and things emerge. Either from primordial beings that awaken in that darkness, or from beings that existed before, in a timeless moment, deciding to make something both instantly and across all of infinity. And that is where we look out today. Follow me back to the shores of the land of the rising sun, back to the dawn of time, back to the descent from the Koto Matsukami and the arrival of Izanami and Izanagi. He who beckoned and she who beckoned were tasked by their progenitor gods to descend to the formless world below and grant it shape. So standing at the edge of the divine bridge, together they lowered the tip of the heavenly jeweled spear into the sea, and stirred the dark waters to life, sloshing it around as if it were a pot boiling. Then the spear was withdrawn from the waters, and the brine at the edge of that spear dropped to the water's surface, creating the form of Onogoroshima, the earthly place upon which they would build their world. Upon this island there was a massive pillar that extended to the heavens, and a spacious hall created upon the surface. Then, as they moved around the pillar, the two gods had a big bang, though beforehand it was Izanami who spoke first. Because of this speaking first from the woman, their first children were born deformed, Ebisu, lacking arms and legs, and their other child, Awashima, literally was an island of stone and foam. Sensing something was wrong, they consulted their heavenly forebears, and it was said that their previous actions, with Izanami speaking first in their wedding, caused this disarray. So they repeated the process, with Izanagi speaking first, and from that they proceeded to create the other islands of the Japanese archipelago, through more and more heavenly courtings, alongside countless other gods, and ending with a literal god of fire, Kagutsuchi. Kagutsuchi was a being of literal divine fire, so dangerous and hot that even when carried by a goddess, as Izanami was, he proved too devastating for her. As he came to term, Izanami became the first death of the world, and soon she was followed by the second, as Izanagi took his blade and set Kagutsuchi's head from his body. In other accounts, this does not occur right away, and the dying Izanami gives birth to another goddess, Muzu Hanome, who is born, intending to keep the burning god in check with her watery powers as a goddess of the waves. Not long after either result, Izanami is buried and descends to the depths of Yomi, the underworld, where she is among the first inhabitants of such a despicable place, polluted by death and unpleasantness. And everything fell with the world. Having slain his son and having just buried his wife, Izanagi was beside himself. His heart was heavy, and there was a constant reminder brought about by their lovely children. So, gathering himself, he passed through the Yomotsu Hirasaka, the cavern that led down to Yomi. This place was not good. It was filled with a negative energy and a stench unlike any the god had experienced before. Something malevolent, foul. Decay, death, waste. A terrible sensation, but as he wandered through the dark caverns of Yomi, he heard a familiar sound. Laying in the dark, his wife slept, shadowed over by the dreary air of this place. He breathed with relief and wished to see her, to bring her back with him. They were gods. It would be easy to take her back to the living world. Looming there, he woke her up, and caused a slight panic to stare within her. Despite his best efforts to tell her to come back, she had already become one with the dead, and to do so she would have to ask permission. Or in other tales, Izanagi would have to lead her out without looking back at her. That's very Orphic. Interesting. Either way, there was a restriction on her return, and Izanagi did not care. He was willing to go. Except not really. As with the story of Orpheus and Eurydice, Somewhere along the journey out of Yomi, Izanagi grew curious and removed his comb or broke one of its teeth, depending on the telling, and with divine prominence he caused it to ignite into a brilliant flame, illuminating the deep darkness of Yomi and revealing the sorrowful state his dear wife had gained. Her perfect skin now sat pale, her eyes sunken. Maggots and vermin crawled along her form. Her hair was stringy and clinging to her clammy skin. Unable to see past these physical changes, despite the love his wife had for him and he for her, Izanagi screamed in terror, hurrying out of Yomi and deserting any chance he had to be with his wife any longer. Enraged at this sight, as any woman would be, this man came to see her. She gave him the clues to not look back. She got furious and conjured 8 gods of thunder and sent them chasing Izanagi across the underworld as he attempted to flee. Izanagi saw them coming, and after escaping, he pulled a great boulder, so great that 1,000 men would have trouble moving it, and he slammed it into the entryway of the cavern with a deafening thud. As he sat on the outside, polluted and disgusted, he heard the voice of his dear wife, heartbroken, hurt, but angry. "Beloved Izanagi, if you do this, I will strangle 1,000 of your mortals each and every day." In pain, she said, and he looked back, took a breath, and replied, "Beloved Izanami, if you do that, I will build 1,500 birthing huts each and every day." And those, or something along these lines, were the last words the pair ever spoke to one another as they went their separate ways. In most accounts, it was after this encounter with Izanami, Izanagi bathes in a nearby river and purifies himself, from which Tsukuyomi, Susanoo no Mikoto, and Amaterasu were born. Tsukuyomi and Amaterasu are sent to heaven as the sun and moon, while Susanoo stays on the earth bearing the fertility of his living father, and the anger of the charging thunder gods that chased him out of Yomi, and the decay that Izanami had partook in. A true god in the middle. In other accounts, those 3 had already been born. Amaterasu already sent to Takamagahara to rule over the day, and Tsukuyomi to the night sky to rule over the night, second only to the sun in that fact. With these 3 rulers created, Izanagi could finally retire, mournful but able to watch creation as it will be guided by his 3 noble children. Beware the grand boulder that rumbles with the sound of thunder. Careful when the waves swirl into a sea of foam and salt. When the sun shrinks into darkness and the moon ceases its shining. For from these places come the forebearers of great Yamato. Pray that those who beckon do not beckon to you. As always, thanks for watching. Stay hydrated and be good people.